mate, just tell me about anything. Like, so you were telling me a little bit about...
You'll ask a few questions to
Yeah.
kick me off and go for it.
Yeah, so you're saying you drink spring water.
Hmm.
Yeah. Is that the best thing you find?
Just, I found it was the easiest, best thing when it comes to water. Like, water's so important for us, and then really learning the importance of the constant minerals for our body for, like, bone density. Like the Blue Zones book and study. Have you read that book?
No.
So the Blue Zones are like the highest centenarian per capita areas in the world, and they're not countries as such. So there's a small island in Italy and a small island in Greece and Costa Rica and Japan. There's Okinawa in Japan, and through all of these studies they show different things that they do. And in Costa Rica they drink spring water, and it's really high in calcium. They've got really low rates of like osteoporosis, and I realised rather than doing all these different things through machines to get clean water, just buying spring water is one of the most easiest positive things that I could do for water.
Is there a good like spring water that you can buy from the supermarket?
Most of it's been filtered. So my spring water man, he sells commercial spring water, but it's been double filtered to take away the mineral density. Whereas the spring water that I get from him is just like straight raw, high mineral density. So you say on my spring water bottle, the bottom of the tap, just within like a month or so, just goes white from all the calcium build up on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you know there's a ton of calcium in it, minerals in it.
You probably didn't realise, but I did hit recording.
Yeah, I figured you did.
So we're here on the property, and I'm here with Sean Rowe. Everyone, welcome Sean Rowe. We're just here having a chat. I think this can be part of the Free the Voice sort of journey podcast, Free the Voice Studios. We decided to have the camera facing this way instead of the trees in the background because the lighting would be a bit weird, but you can see in the reflection of the mirrors, the windows, that all the trees are out there, 249 olive trees. What a beautiful place to be. What a fucking serene
Do you want me to give it a quick
Yeah,
panorama?
give it a turn around, yeah. So for everyone who's watching, we're going to put this up on YouTube, going to put this hopefully on Spotify. Start the Free the Voice journey. Have a look at this. Hold it there for a sec. It's just adjusting. Still adjusting. Still adjusting. Still adjusting. Still adjusting. Can you move it a little bit forward? Oh, it's still a bit sort of... Yeah, too much light. That's all right. All good. But yeah, for everyone watching, you can get a bit of an idea. This is on the Logitech Brio. So yeah. Heaps good. Sick. Yeah, we're just out here, just chilling, just having a chat. So tell me a little bit about what we did last night.
It's so good to catch up with you again. Haven't seen you for ages. And thank you for the invitation. Like I'm so grateful for the invitation to come out to your property and see what kind of life you want to build for yourself. Like, you bought a beautiful olive farm and showed me around, and it's just magical because to me, it feels like that'll bring you back to nature, bring you back to earth, farming fruits, and building on the land, living on the land.
Yeah,
seems like that's one of my dreams. My goals one day is to own organic farms and to get into organic farming, and you've started it. You've just jumped straight into it.
Yeah,
love it. Very, very much love it, and feel very grateful that you've invited me here and made me a beautiful fruit salad and then oats with fruit for breakfast, and yeah, very, very nice.
Yeah, we were in bed by like fucking midnight last night. It's 11:15 now, Sunday, the 6th of November, 2022, for those of you listening back.
And that's even a late night for me. Like, I've been sticking to a real good, tight sleep schedule of getting to sleep between 9 and 10 every night. I'm waking up between 6 and 7 every morning. So late night, slept in a little bit this morning, but feel pretty good now.
Yeah, bit of a story about Sean. So Sean, he went vegan in 2016.
January 2016.
2016, because of some life things that happened. So tell us a little bit about your journey, about what happened, what led you down this path, and a little bit about how you treat your body. And well, we can go a lot into it actually. So start us off.
All right, so it was a slow journey. It was a long journey. It wasn't just so instant. I'm going to go back from the start. So I've trained and competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from when I was about 18, 19 years old. So 2009 was my first competition, and didn't stop till 2015. Had my own air conditioning business since I was probably 19, and went out on my own when I was 21, and just worked super hard, ridiculous hours, Had my first daughter when I was 23, and I'd come home from training every Tuesday, Thursday night, 9 o'clock and 9:30, and watch SBS while I ate heaps of baked beans and cheese on toast. Was my after training meals. And SBS was great. They've got all the documentaries, and there was, I can't remember his name, guy on SBS that does awesome documentaries on health, and he was showing like the Loma Linda study of how much longer these everyday Americans are living because of their culture of living a healthy lifestyle and not eating any animal products. Didn't understand the depth of it completely, but I saw that people were living on average, 10 to 20% longer by not eating animal products. And I thought, oh, there's a good shortcut for me. I can just add in vegan meals. And then I did a bit of research on the protein powders that I was doing and realized that plant-based protein powders were so much less inflammatory on the body and so much better for recovery. So I changed over to plant-based protein powders many years ago as well, and started just chucking a vegan meal in. Like most lunches, if I wasn't eating absolute crap, I was eating just a vegan meal, and thought, that's going to help me live a little bit longer and healthier. And then in 2014, working 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, found out Christmas Day that my wife was pregnant, my then wife was pregnant, and went to blow off some steam with friends 2 days later. We went down to Beachport and got way too intoxicated.
On the southeast of South Australia?
Yep, southeast coast, where you can drive on the beach and camp on the beach. Used to go there motorbike riding and lots of full driving and fun, and got way too wasted, didn't drink water, didn't eat food, and apparently was in the back of my mate's ute and sort of passed out or fell out in some way, no one knows exactly, and hit my head and put myself into a coma for a few days. And that was the start of changing my life for the better in lots of huge ways.
Wow, yeah. So I've heard that story. So I guess we'll go, if you're feeling all right with it. You use it as a part of your inspirational sort of journey to help people sort of realize that they can actually. It's so easy to change your life. Well, it's quite hard.
If you want it, yeah.
But
you've got to want it,
and you've got to want it.
And quite often, there's not many people that can change without a catalyst.
Yeah,
and that was my catalyst in life that really helped me to realize, and it wasn't just straight away. Everyone thinks that I just changed overnight, but it wasn't overnight. There was a big recovery stage to it first. I didn't understand brain injury, so I went back to training full on straight away. While I was in rehab, I went to rehab for a month, and I got my wife to bring my diary in so I could get the boys working, because I still had 3 guys working for me at the time. And I started organising jobs while I was in rehab. Like, how stupid of me. I didn't understand brain injury. I didn't understand cognitive fatigue. They were always asking me, "Are you tired?" I'm like, yeah, I'm laying around in bed all day. I'd go to the gym in rehab, and I wasn't allowed to run. I wasn't allowed to lift weights. I was allowed to walk on the treadmill, and I was allowed to do some light, very, very light exercises, and it was just torture. So my depression started very quickly, and getting out of rehab and just going straight back into work as hard as I could was probably the worst thing I could have done. All the specialists were telling me no, but I had no boss to control me because I'm my own boss. So I just went back in and went too hard, and depression grew through the year. I was referred to a psychologist, but my ego didn't allow me to make the call. But I got pretty depressed by mid-year 2015, and asked my wife to make contact with Con Polychronis, and she sent him a message. He was in Victor, I'll never forget, and he replied, "Yep, book me in for a date." And I started to see him. I started to see him every week, and I felt safe with him. And he would teach me strategies on everything, all the basics of psychology, depression, anxiety, how to hold space for people, be there for people. And he would talk to me about it. And then I'm the type of person that likes to read over things. So I'd get him to write out every strategy he taught me. I got him to write out really clear for me. Got my office at home, and I'd take it home and I'd sit it on my desk, like so it was facing me. So every day when I got home from work and I was sitting there doing my paperwork, I'd read over it. And I'd read over it in the morning, and I was just really imprinting that into my mind. So it was second nature. And I did this with everything over the following years. I remember during 2015, he was very gentle. He's a very, very gentle man, very smart man. And he would say, maybe you're working too much. And, have you ever heard of this thing, mindfulness? Meditation or mindfulness? I'm like, what the fuck is mindfulness? What the fuck is meditation? I had no idea. I was such a bogan tradie with no understanding of the rest of life, and I just laughed. I just thought it was an absolute joke. I had no idea what he was on about. And then my depression just spiraled that year. It got so bad that by the end of 2015 I was thinking some pretty bad suicidal thoughts, and I quit my contract on Christmas Eve 2015. So I contracted for a big air conditioning company in Adelaide, and I didn't feel like I was treated very well.
This was after your accident.
Yeah, this is 2015. So my accident was December 27, 2014. So through 2015, I tried to go back to work. I went back to jiu-jitsu. So I was training jiu-jitsu Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And I'd lost while I was in hospital. I was 75 kilos, fit as anything, strong as anything when I went into hospital. During 2014, I had my first mixed martial arts fight. I got knocked out second round, but I was super fit. But to cut weight for that fight, I made it down to 65 kilos, and I hadn't been that light since I was a teenager. I'd never cut that sort of weight before. And then I remember being weighed when I left the hospital, and I was 65 kilos again, and what a shock that was to me. And then, it took time for me to understand what had happened, that I'd been in a coma, and I was on a drip, being fed on a drip, for so many days, and that's why I'd lost so much weight and I'd lost so much muscle. But I also got a blood clot in my left arm, 12 centimeter blood clot in my left arm, and my arm sat in a sling for 6 weeks, and my bicep atrophied. So my whole left bicep was dead. Like, there was no tensing of the muscle there. And what I learned afterwards by training that, so I started with just doing weights of just my hand, just my arm, and I was doing that. I was doing 3-4 sets in the morning, doing that. I was very driven to get fit and strong again. I didn't understand brain injury. I was just like, all I saw was the physical damages that I'd done to myself and that I'd lost while I was in hospital. So I trained. I was seeing an exercise physiologist 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I was going to jiu-jitsu Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I was working every day, and it was just all about building that strength and that fitness again. I'm ready for, there was an Oz Cup in August 2015, Jiu-Jitsu Oz Cup in Adelaide, and I just got my purple belt the year before, so I'd hit that next level and I wanted to compete. And all of the second nature jiu-jitsu was still there. I'd been training for so many years. I think it was like 7 years at the time roughly, and it was all still there, but my cognitive function wasn't there. I didn't realize how bad it wasn't there because I was still rolling really well with everyone I knew in the club.
Yeah, because you didn't understand brain injury.
Didn't understand brain injury.
Right.
And I entered the Oz Cup against all of my therapists and doctors' recommendations, entered like, yep, cool. And it was my place of peace. I was so depressed through that year. I'd go to jiu-jitsu and I can't think about anything.
So for those of you listening, Sean, when he had his accident, you sustained a brain injury.
Yep, diffuse axonal brain injury, which is just diffuse meaning all over, damaging the axons, which are the pathways between your neurons, all over my entire brain. So I've got clouds of scar tissue covering my entire brain now, and I still have that to this day. That will never heal. Scar tissue will never heal. But through neuroplasticity, which I learned about in 2016, I reckon, I started to understand that we can rewire our brain and we can start to use other parts of our brain for the parts that we've lost, and we can regain the same sort of cognitive capacity as before, if not more, if we really train and push for it. And then where was I before? So during 2015, depression got bad, and I got to a real bad state by the end of 2015. Well, I entered the Oz Cup, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Oz Cup in August, in purple belt, the highest division I'd ever been in, and first fight, I was rolling a guy that I knew, not a friend or anything, just a guy that I knew, I trained with for years, and he choked me unconscious. I was tapping, but he didn't let go and just held on. And there's a lot of ego in jiu-jitsu of if he let go of me and let me out because I was tapping, but the ref didn't see it, I could have just called bullshit and we would have had to restart again. So people won't let go. They'll choke you out cold, or they'll break your joints until the ref sees something. And he choked me unconscious. I had my wife and my daughter and friends and family in the crowd watching, and that was pretty full on for her. I didn't stop. Went to the next fight. I was fighting a guy that was 100 odd kilos, just pure muscle, ridiculously fit, this giant from Queensland. And he was so good. And I just said to him, look, I've just come out of hospital earlier this year, got a brain injury. If I tap, can you please respect the tap? I'll respect you. I'm not going to start again. I'm not going to be a dickhead about it. Please just respect me. Like, the last fight wasn't very well respected. And he just gently beat me up, tapped out, had a beautiful fight with him, and tapped out nicely, peacefully, and then
gently beat you up.
Yeah, just so gentle. It was just a gentle giant, just a beautiful soul. And then my last fight was with a friend that I'd trained with in a much closer sort of way for many years. And he stood up with my leg over his shoulder and pulled through to try and push my legs out of the way and pop my left knee, slight tear in my MCL. And it was just like I couldn't train anymore. I couldn't run. I couldn't train. And it really just put me on my ass. It was the universe telling me, like, slow the fuck down, Sean. And the universe just keeps coming back to me, slow the fuck down, Sean. And I stopped jiu-jitsu at that point, and I lost that escape. that positive escape through jiu-jitsu. You know, when I was rolling, I couldn't think about any of the negatives. I couldn't think about anything other than the game, other than protecting myself and offensive in the game of jiu-jitsu. And then Christmas Eve, or it was the day before Christmas Eve, so 23rd of December 2014, I'd seen my psychologist. I'd had some pretty bad thoughts the week before. This week I hadn't slept for a few days and the thoughts had been spiraling in my mind. And he said to me that he was really scared for me and others around me, and he said he wouldn't let me leave his office unless I promised to quit my contract. And I promised him that I would, and the next day I went into the company I was contracting for and told them that I was quitting my contract. I couldn't handle it anymore. Like they hadn't held me the way that they'd promised they would through the year. They just put more pressure on me, so I quit. And I felt free for that week or so between Christmas and New Year's. I was just like, wow, what a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I was on such a high, and then bam, New Year's Day, like 1st of January 2016, I just felt like an absolute pathetic piece of shit. Like I'd just given up everything that I'd ever worked for because I couldn't handle my emotions. Still not understanding brain injury, still not understanding depression properly. And I went back to the psychologist, and he said, you know, antidepressants are only in case of emergency. That's all he's ever recommended.
Yep.
And he recommended maybe I see the doctor, and I went to the doctor, got put on antidepressants. They made my anxiety spiral worse.
Yep.
And I went back to him. He wouldn't change it, wouldn't touch it. There was only a few things I got out of bed for. That was to see my EP, my exercise physiologist, to train. And I saw her on Friday that week, so the first week of January, and she said to me, you know, have you seen your doctor? Like, because I was just shaking. I was an absolute mess. I was so scared. And I said, I'm not all right. Yes, I've seen the doctor. He won't change anything. He said, I need to see a psychiatrist. I'm booked in to see a psychiatrist, but it's not for 4 weeks. So I've just got to live in this for 4 weeks. And I'm like, I just need to fucking run, Luana. I need to train. I need to escape this. This is fucking horrible. And she said, this isn't okay. And she said, you know, could I recommend a doctor to you that is really good with mental health? And she recommended me to a beautiful doctor that has changed my life, and he changed my drugs straight away. And then later in January, I think it was probably 2nd or 3rd week of January, there was a personal trainer at my gym, Ben, and he'd been talking to me about, you know, what was I eating for my brain recovery through 2015. And I told him I was doing, you know, all these different fish oil tablets. I was drinking a shot of olive oil every day.
Yeah.
I needed all the omega fatty
Those
acids.
things.
Yep. This is what all the best doctors in Adelaide had told me, you know, best neurologists had told me to do all these different things. And then he was just like, nah, you're crazy. And I'd known this guy since I was a teenager. I've been going to the same gym since I was a teenager. And I was just like, nah, you're crazy, man. You are fucking nuts. You're just a personal trainer and nutritionist. And I was just a bit unsure of him. And then he finally held a seminar at the gym on plant-based nutrition and chronic disease and optimal performance. And I went along with my wife, who was already vegan, and my 2 daughters. So I had my second daughter by that point. And with an open mind, total open mind, like, all right, what is it? And he just talked about, he just shut down all the reasons that we need meat with perfect peer-reviewed studies on the screen. And any question that anyone asked, he had beautiful, perfect answers for everything. And that night I went home and watched Forks Over Knives.
Oh, yeah, good place to start.
I was a bit blown away, but I was definitely about nutrition. Nutrition's always been a big motivator for me, and optimal performance for training. And I changed my diet, and that was on a Tuesday night. And I was clean till Friday, and then I got my normal Supreme pizza, and it knocked me around. I was just like, whoa, that was heavy. And I went, you know, full-blown vegan, no salt, no oil, no sugar, because I saw the importance of all of those being really, really important. And then to go to a Supreme pizza, you know, 4 days later was full on. And I went a full another week clean, and I got pizza again the week later, and it knocked me even worse. It was like instant hangover. I had a migraine straight away. My body just felt like absolute crap. Everything just shut down. And it was just like such a clear signal, like, this is not good for me. I need to stop this straight away. Yep. And I just need to stick to the clean eating. And I did from that point onwards. And that was, you know, my slow journey through understanding veganism is going to help you live longer. And then, you know, vegan protein powder, plant-based protein powder is going to actually help you recover faster and better, all the way to, you know, knowing what was going to be best for my brain recovery and just taking that clear-cut change. and then didn't look back.
Awesome.
And went into having to study and understand everything about nutrition after that. I really needed to know the answers to all the questions. And I was lucky. I was still going to the gym 3 days a week, and I would see him there every time and just ask him all of my questions. And he had answers for everything, or he would send me to links to places where I could find the answers online. There's so many beautiful doctors and scientists online that share all of this amazing information, and got all of my questions answered.
Yeah, awesome. So what do you think is the, like, say, you felt really shit after having that Supreme Pizza, right? After being clean for a week and then having the Supreme Pizza and then being clean again the next week, and then it sort of, you had another one and it made you feel worse. Why did it make you feel worse, do you think? And as opposed to, say, someone who eats like that all the time?
It was a shock to my body because I hadn't had any salt, oil, sugar for that week. I think the oil, probably all of it at the same time. So, sugar has such a negative effect. It puts our insulin through, spikes our insulin through the roof. Salt just slows everything down, causes inflammation straight away. And oil shuts down, our endothelial cells function to produce nitric oxide, which slows down oxygen to every part of your body. And your brain has, millions of little blood vessels feeding every part of your brain. And every one of those blood vessels is lined, first layer is the endothelial cells, and your brain needs oxygen to function. And I'd just eaten a Supreme Pizza covered in oil, cheese and pepperoni and whatever else. And it just knocked me. It gave me a headache straight away. I knocked that oxygen out of my brain, out of my body. And I really shut my body down after eating so clean for a week. And so for me, it wasn't about how good I felt when eating clean. It was how bad I felt when I ate shit again.
Yeah.
That was the biggest change. People say how good they feel when they change, but for me it was realizing how bad I felt, because I didn't notice how good I felt until I ate shit again and realized how bad I always used to feel. I always felt like I had a sort of a level of chronic fatigue where I was tired because I'd eat, KFC for lunch. I'd have a bakery for breakfast, KFC for lunch. If I wasn't eating, trying to eat a healthy vegan meal for lunch, I was eating KFC. It was, one or the other. It was a very extreme sort of meal changes in my life.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, sweet. So take us through a day of your eating. So you got your breakfast, you got your lunch, you got your dinner, snacks in between. What does a typical day look like, and how? Let's say, take us through how you prepare it. It's like, say, if you soak your beans or whatever. Take us through that journey.
So I sometimes fast if I don't have the girls. I'll fast for breakfast and sometimes lunch. So I'll do dinner to dinner. Fasting, intermittent fasting in general. As I delved into that when COVID happened, I was like, all right, well, I didn't want to delve into it because, just being whole food, plant-based, no salt, oil, sugar was deep enough. But then I delved into it through COVID, and I really started to understand the benefits of fasting and longevity and health. As humans for millions of years and whatever animals we were before, we didn't have food at our fingertips all the time.
Scarcity.
Yeah. So we fasted a lot, and it was like, all right, cool, I need to go on this journey. So I went on that journey. But now if I do eat, I have breakfast. I do overnight oats with almond milk, like an organic almond milk with no added sweeteners or oils. And in the oats, I blend up flax seeds and chia seeds. So I'll do a layer of oats, a layer of milled flax seeds and chia seeds for my omega-3s and antioxidants, and just layer that and then soak it in almond milk. And then with that, put that in a bowl, might put some soy milk in there and then pepitas, and always cut up an apple and a banana and whatever fruit is in season. So at the moment, I've been having blueberries, strawberries, mango as well. So always a full banana and an apple and strawberries and mangoes and whatever else is in the fridge or in the salad bowl at the moment. And that's my breakfast. And then I'll eat fruit during the day if I feel the need to. Lunch is normally leftovers quite often.
Mm-hmm.
There's always leftover food in the fridge. I have my girls half the time, so I have them 2 days on, 5 days off. 5 days on, 2 days off.
Yep.
And they eat. I find it really hard. So by the end of the day, I'm still quite cognitively fatigued and exhausted. And working and parenting are two very exhausting things to do every day.
I could imagine, yeah.
And every time I try and cook anything that's slightly different for my kids, any slight new flavors, it's just such a fight, and it's just torture. So I stick to real basic meals for them. We make like pita bread pizzas, like wholemeal pita bread pizzas.
Yep.
Is one of the go-tos. I have cold rolls pretty much every week. Every Thursday we have cold rolls, and that's tofu with soy sauce and garlic powder and whatever other herbs and spices. And then we have capsicum, cucumber, carrot, and then mint, coriander
Yeah.
on that as well, and a bit of chili sauce.
Yeah. So you're not 100% always off the clean. Like sometimes you'll allow, like a little bit of sugar, a little bit of like oil sort of stuff here and there. Nothing big enough to have a shock.
As time's gone on, I've allowed it more and more. Probably this year's probably been the biggest year of allowing it more back into my life as my cognitive capacity grew over the last few years.
Yeah.
And that's probably a story in itself of finding psilocybin magic mushrooms and microdosing them now consistently for years. That helped my cognitive capacity grow so much and
Very good segue.
helped me grow more confidence in myself to be able to step out of my safety net of living like a Buddhist monk in a sense. I was meditating for like an hour every day. After I split up with the wife, I really went in on myself and meditated hour every day, and I was just eating super clean. I was very quiet because I struggled with socializing. And then as I found mushrooms and started microdosing that consistently, my capacity grew and I could handle socializing all of a sudden. I could handle social events and I wasn't dying straight away. I could handle it for hours, and I started to catch up with more and more friends and started to allow a bit more oily food. Never went away from vegan, but I started to allow sweets and oils and then coffees and all of the different things, all the different hits.
Those creature comforts. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Like, I know it's always within our capacity to be able to get to that sort of level. And it's always in my mind, like, oh, should I be eating this? But then, like, here's an example. Like, the other day, I was hungry, just finished playing a game of baseball. This was last week. And I was hungry. I didn't really have much time. So fuck, I'll just go through Hungry Jack's and
get myself a vegan burger.
Yeah, but then when I was before I did it, it's so weird. It must be brain function. So before I did, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, I've just
that's your higher mind. That's your higher self trying to talk yourself out of it, and then your mind kicks in.
But then as I was going to pick up Sophie to go back to her place or something, and then in my drive there, my mind I was like, Hungry Jack's just said, all right, I'll just go in. And it just
into it straight away. Yeah, if you give that one moment of weakness, your mind will take control and you'll fall into it.
Yeah,
like I was at Kirtan on Sunday night, and my Kirtan, like my spiritual teacher there, she was doing a talk on our mind. Our mind can be our worst enemy, but it can also be our best friend. As we learn to control ourselves, not be controlled by our mind, because our mind is constantly spitting out random thoughts of all sorts of negative things. And it's up to us to see them for what they are. So it can be our friend in the way that when we can see that it's trying to cause us to do negative things, and we can see that that's not our choice, that's not what we truly want. That's not what we truly want. We actually want to eat clean, and we can start to see these as little, all right, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. We start to see our mind as the negative. Well, there can be some real negatives there, and it's just a little alarm for us. All right, cool, I'm not doing that. My mind wants me to do it. That's definitely not something I should be doing. But that's not easy to control. That's practice over many years.
Very hard to control, yeah.
So then in my recovery journey, like I was saying how my psychologist through 2015 was talking about mindfulness and meditation. I was just so unknown to what it was and not ready for it. But then in January 2016, he also, I went in there just super depressed, and he told me to go into antidepressants. And I don't know if it was that first session or one of the next few sessions. He's like, would you like to try some mindfulness and meditation? And I was just like, yeah, fucking give it to me. Anything's better than this feeling right now. I'm willing to try anything. And he said, do you want to sit on my couch? I was like, hell yeah, I've always wanted to sit on that couch.
Just that couch, everyone
full
sees.
layback,
yeah.
In the psychologist's
and
office.
he's in the chair with the book.
Oh, he's great. And he's like, can I use your phone to record it? And I was just like, yeah, I don't know how to. He's like, oh, it'll be in here. And he found the recorder, and he's like, cool, I'll record it while I guide you into meditation.
Oh, awesome.
Mindfulness practice. And he just recorded like a 3.5 minute mindfulness meditation for me. And it was just like, I just fell asleep.
Kind of like hypnotherapy.
Yeah, that's hypnotherapy is just meditative therapy.
Yeah,
like taking your mind into a meditative state, a suggestive state. But he was using it for recharge, to relax myself, because I'm a highly wound person. I'm a highly anxious person, which motivates me and helps me to do everything that I do. But learning to control that was something that he saw that I needed, and he could see it so clearly from all of his experience. he could see that meditation was what I needed. And I was finally open to it, and I got that recording, and I listened to it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times a day, every day between all my jobs, because I drive around between jobs all day, every day. I would just stop because it's only 3 minutes. I'm like, yep, I'm 10 minutes early, or I can handle being 5 minutes late. I just stop, pull over, listen to the meditation, and then continue on the road to the next job. A week later, I was just like, I need a longer one, man. Like, this is amazing. Like, I'm finding peace in my mind. I'm finally looking after myself in a sense. And he was very gentle, and he only gave me a 4-minute one.
Right.
Just slowly teased me into it. And every week I just wanted more and more. And then I remember the first time I hit the meditative state, might have been a 10 or 15 minute one that I had by this point. I was at Subway, Main North Road, just coming out of town in the car park, just eating lunch, listening to my meditation. And I just hit this meditative state of like, I felt like I was asleep, but I wasn't. I could still hear, and I still knew everything was going on. But I knew that if I concentrated on any one thing, any feeling or any sense too much, I was going to lose it. And then I lost it. But I'd held it for a minute or a few minutes, and I remember just ringing my wife like, Gemma, like, I was asleep, but I wasn't asleep. I was awake. I knew everything that was happening, but I felt like I was asleep at the same time. She's like, Sean, you just found the meditative state. And I was just like, that was incredible. And then it was my chase to try and find that again that really drove my meditation deeper, and I wanted to understand it more. So I asked him, what books, how did you learn about it? And he said, he'd been to the Buddha house in McGill, learnt some Buddhism from there, and he'd read some books, and one of them was Miracles of Mindfulness by Thich
Nhat Hanh.
That's the one. And that was beautiful. That really brought me back into the moment. And then I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Yep. And he's coming to Adelaide next year. Going to go to that with my sister. Looking forward to him. And that helped change my life, realizing that presence was such an important part of mental health and connectedness to yourself and to the earth and to others. It brings presence. It brings self-awareness so much more than just constantly being put up, like losing your mind in whatever it might be, in your phone or drinking or drugs or whatever it is. Just to be present with everything, all of your feelings, all of your emotions, all of your thoughts. And then in 2017, I took my shoes off, and I don't wear shoes very often now. I wear shoes for work, wear shoes for hiking sometimes, and wear shoes for climbing. But I don't wear shoes most of the time. Everyone's always so weirded out by it. It's like, no, like that was a way that I found, people call it grounding, and it keeps me centered in a sense. You call it grounding, I call it centered. Keeps my mind centered, present in the moment, because every texture that we walk on is different. The stones will be a little bit sharp. Walking on prickles will be a little bit sharp, but it brings you back constantly. And they're all sensations. They're all feelings. Like you'd normally feel things, and this is how humans would have been for millions of years, feeling everything that we walked on. So like, when you do it purposely with your hands, you're feeling it. But most of the time we're not.
Whereas it's just mindful.
Yeah, when you're walking.
Mindless.
Yeah, when you're walking, you can become very more mindful.
Yeah.
And listening to Buddhism about mindful walking and feeling every sensation as you walk and doing each step one step at a time slowly. It was just like, that was just a magical way to bring mindfulness to my life every day, and help. There was another part of my meditation journey, and I went and did a meditation. I think I did a few different meditation courses, learned different types of meditation, and I still meditate every day now for 45 minutes to an hour.
Do you ever cut your feet?
I have done, but not often, no.
Because your feet are quite strong now. They'd be a bit, the skin would be a lot thicker and a lot denser. And
not just that, like a part of the mindfulness is that you're mindful of where you're stepping.
Yeah. So if you see, you're looking at where you're stepping. Like I always look where I'm stepping if I've got no shoes on. I'm like, all right, I don't want to step on that.
So it brings you, that's another way that it brings you back to the present moment, because you're being mindful of where you're stepping. You're watching what you're walking on. And, sometimes you can not be mindful. You're lost in whatever the thoughts are that are happening, and I might walk through a sharp bush or something, and something might cut my foot, or it's not very rarely. I don't think I've cut the bottom of my feet really much ever, but I'll scratch the sides of it or the top of it by walking through bushes or trees or something. But that's normally the worst of it, really. Yeah. There was a funny experience this year. I took the girls to Bali, and my partner said to me, Sean, you should get a pedicure. Have you ever had a pedicure before? She'd been talking about it through the year, and I was just like, no, I've never fucking had that shit. And she's
quite
like,
nice.
Totally get one while you're in Bali.
So nice, isn't it?
It's so relaxing. It's total self-care. And I was just like, all right, I'll give it a go. And I went in with the girls. The girls are getting their nails done, their hair done, and in the beauty salon.
Yep.
And I got a pedicure, and it was torture. It was horrible. It was like, because my feet are super sensitive at the same time. Like they're so ticklish because they're not used to being touched. Like, yes, they're used to walking on every surface, but they're not used to being touched.
Yeah.
And she gets the sanding block out and she's just sanding away, sanding away, sanding
your
away.
feet?
Yeah, getting all the callus off of my feet. There's just like a pile of foot dust there. And
That's
she gets
nutritional yeast.
she gets to the end. She's like, do you want me to paint your nails? Because that's a part of the pedicure. And I'm like, oh, yeah, why not? What do you got? And she showed me all these different ones, all these different pictures. She said she couldn't do half of the pictures. So I just got smiley faces on my big toes and all of the different colors on my other toes. And it was beautiful. But then I walked out of there like, ouch, ouch, ouch. I didn't realize.
Because your calluses were gone.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much callus I had there that was actually saving me from all those tiny little ouches. And that was quite sensitive.
And you have to build that back up again.
Back up again, totally.
Yeah, so it's like maybe go in there and say, no, leave it. Leave the
next
calluses.
time. Yeah, give it a little gentle rub on some of the rougher edges, but not the thick spots on the bottom because I need them for safety. Totally.
Yeah, wow.
But what an experience that was.
That's awesome. So one thing I wanted to touch on, there's a couple of as we go through our conversation, there's a couple of things that I want you to sort of tell me a little bit about with your journeys. So you touched on it a little bit before. So you mentioned psilocybin mushrooms, or what are most commonly referred to as magic mushrooms. You started to incorporate what's referred to as microdosing into your daily routine. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us a little bit about, well, not a little bit, tell us as much as you want to tell us about your journey with that, how it helps you in your day-to-day life, and how it sort of, just brings you back. Tell us a bit about how its medicinal properties help you.
All right, so you're going to have to keep me in line here, but I'm going to go back to the start. So I was on drugs when I had my accident. Had a 3-year-old daughter and a baby on the way with my wife. And while I was in rehab, I couldn't sleep much because I had been training so much before I went in there. I was working, 80 to 100 hours a week and then training on top of that. So I was super fit, super active to laying in a bed all day, every day. And my mind just couldn't switch off because I wasn't physically exhausted. And I was depressed and it was totally fatigued. My mind was fatigued. So I was mentally and cognitively tired, but my body wasn't tired, so I couldn't sleep. And I just thought about what a fucking dickhead I was. I'd taken drugs the day of my accident and I thought how fucking selfish I was that I'd nearly killed myself. And my daughter, my 3-year-old daughter, nearly had to grow up without a father, and I nearly didn't get to meet my next child. And I was just like, all right, I'm not doing drugs ever again. And then when I left rehab, the nurse came up to me and she talked to me about the importance of not drinking alcohol. When I leave with brain injury, alcohol is a neurotoxin, does nothing but poison your entire brain, so it's not going to be good for recovery. She said for at least a year, if not, indefinitely after brain injury. I was just like, fuck, alcohol was a big part of my life, a big part of my coping mechanism. I'd work 6 days, ridiculous hours, and then when I finished work on a Saturday, I'd start drinking, and I'd drink until I went to bed Sunday night. Sometimes I wouldn't sleep Saturday night, or I'd sleep a little bit, and then just get back up and drink all day Sunday as my escape. And that would numb my mind enough that I coped for the start of the week, and by the end of the week, I was just super stressed again. And I didn't realize how much of an addiction it was because I thought I controlled it really well because I didn't drink during the week. I didn't let it affect my work. But I knew that at the end of the week I had that escape. And through going through the depression in 2015, I remember talking to my psychologist about, should I go back to drinking? I'm really not coping with stress, and maybe alcohol might help relieve that stress. And he's just like, no, I think maybe you should.
Of course not.
He's like, maybe you should slow down your work. Maybe like stepping back and actually looking what's causing this. And then I'd heard.
I can't believe you asked that.
Of course I did. I needed to escape. I was so stressed. I needed an escape, and that was something that I knew. That was my escape that I knew. And I talked about antidepressants, and he was like, "No way, that's only in case of emergency."
Yeah.
And that obviously that emergency happened, and then I'd listened to friends get into listening to Paul Stamets, I think his name is.
Oh, yep.
And all the benefits of mushrooms, microdosing, and then I saw a documentary on psilocybin therapy for untreatable depression. And I'd heard so much about microdosing for anxiety. And I still suffered anxiety when I'd get cognitively tired. My anxiety would go through the roof. I didn't realize, but as I started to learn myself over the years, I started to realize I've always been a hugely anxious person. My mind is always going. And now, my OT and lots of therapists around me have said, I think you've got ADHD, Sean. So I've just got to get around to actually booking the assessment just to see if I can learn more about that for myself. But then my friends started growing cubensis, which is like a tropical sort of mushroom that isn't so temperature sensitive. so they grow quite easily inside. And he was making up micros, just 0.2 grams of psilocybin mushrooms. And these are lighter mushrooms; they're not as heavy like psilocybin strength as the ones.
I'm familiar with the
as the subs in
yep.
Adelaide are much stronger. And he said, would you like to try? And I was like, hell yeah, man! Like anything that can help my capacity. And I tried mushrooms at a festival, at a Naked Hippie Festival, Confest, in 2018, maybe. Yeah, I reckon it must have been 2018 when I broke up with my wife, and I was there with her anyway with the kids. And I was talking to someone as I was walking around. They're like, yeah, I've got some in the car. Just come here. And he gave me a little handful, and I had some mushrooms, and it was just the most beautiful night. There was no hangover the next day. I didn't feel like crap. Everything just looked more beautiful. The blue looked more blue. The green looked more green. Like Nick looked more beautiful than his normal beautiful self, and everything just seemed so much more beautiful in that state. And I was like, this is magic. And it wasn't damaging. Like it wasn't hurting me.
Magic mushrooms.
And it was magic mushrooms. And then I was interested in that. So I went back and asked my father-in-law if he could help me find some. We went out looking through winter 2018, didn't find any, found like one or two, went with a couple of friends, only found one or two. It was just a really bad season. There wasn't enough rain. It wasn't cold enough. So it was a really bad season. Then in 2019, I went out. I talked to so many people by this point about them, and someone had told me Second Valley was a great spot. That was where they always went to. I didn't know where, so I Google mapped it. And there's pine forest in Second Valley. I found a road that goes through the middle of the Forest Road, and I've got a motorhome bus. I was like, I'm going to go down there. I'm just going to go check it out, see what I can find. And I went down there with friends the first time, a couple of friends. They knew what they were looking for. I had no idea what I was looking for properly, and they helped me to identify them. And then I went down there on my own a few weeks later and just wanted to camp down there, and found there was only one little spot, one little corner nook where I could sort of park on the side of the road and have a little fire and camp. And there was a van there. So as I was driving down the road, I saw the van, didn't want to park next to them, camp next to them, disturb them. So I just kept driving, and I made it all the way to the other end of the road out of the forest. I'm like, nah, come back. I'm like, that's the only spot. I'm just going to pull in there, check in with the people and see how they feel about me camping there. And I went over to the van. There was just this beautiful, peaceful music with a sub, like nice bass line, just really calm, gentle music. And it was a bit even calmer, like just really calm, mindful music. It was so beautiful. And the van was all well lit up, all the doors open, and there was no one in there. And I was just like, oh well. All right, and as I was walking away, got a few meters away, this guy comes walking out of the bushes. He's like, "Hey, brother, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good, man." He's like, "You checking out my home?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, man! Beautiful van, beautiful music.
Get off my property."
And I was just like, "I'm gonna camp here tonight. I just wanted to camp here tonight. I wanted to check in with you to make sure it's okay." And he's like, "Yeah, of course, brother. Like, the only thing is, I'm gonna do a big journey tonight, and I'm gonna listen to loud music all night." I'm like, "That's no problem, man. I'll wear earplugs. I'll sleep through. I'm tired." And I'm going to go for a forage tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to go for a forage too. You can join me if you want. I was like, perfect, sweet. I had someone that was experienced and went for a forage with him the next day. We foraged for hours and hours, lost each other in the forest. And he really helped me to pick out what they were as well. And he knew the forest pretty well. So we found still not much again, only maybe a handful or two. And then he gave me all of his that he found as well. Just so generous, such a nice guy. And then, I talked about him and how he facilitates journeys with my ex-wife. And she said she was interested in getting a journey facilitated. And that started to play on my mind. And after listening to that sound system, and he had Bluetooth and he was just playing beautiful music all night, I was just like, I need to get a sound system. There was one of the dads at school that owns a sound system shop. So I took the bus into him. I'm like, man, I want a sub. I want a Bluetooth deck. I want some new speakers. What can you do? He's like, yep, cool, this. Did it all for me within like 2 weeks. Went back 2 weeks later when I didn't have my kids again on the Saturday night. And I had about 5 grams of dried mushrooms. No, that's right. Firstly, I got him to facilitate a journey for me of 5 grams of mushrooms.
Hero dose.
And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. We did a little cacao ceremony first, set intentions of what I wanted to let go of, what I wanted to grow and step into. And he facilitated that journey and sat for me and had a fire and just played beautiful music for me all night. And then I went back alone after I had the stereo done 2 weeks later and did that again, 5 grams again. And it was too much. Like I couldn't see anything, but it was so perfect in a sense that I just played beautiful, calm music. I took notes of all the different songs that he was playing through the night, and I downloaded all of that music that I really liked. And that was me finding music again. I'd never found music before, like since my accident, hadn't found music again because I found it too exhausting. I used to listen to hardstyle techno or heavy metal. Like Metallica, System of a Down was my constant playlist. Yeah. Linkin Park, and it was just all too exhausting for my poor brain. But then finding this peaceful hippie music was just like I could handle that. And then through mushrooms, I felt that I could move my body. I'd never moved my body in this way before. I jumped up and down, I moshed, I raved, but that was me just escaping on like the heaviest level, getting the highest heart rate that I could. Whereas this was just beautiful movement, moving my hips and moving my body and flowing with the music. And that night that I did it on my own, I just danced. I just stood literally in this meter by meter area in my bus and just danced. I couldn't see much. I was just off beautiful colours with my eyes closed and just danced for hours and hours. And I found music and I'd found movement in my body and found that connection to music that dancers love so much and most people love so much that I'd never found or felt before. And it must have been after that I talked to my friend about the micros and I started microdosing consistently. Started getting them from him and microdosing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I was fasting and I'd have the micro, I'd feel it like, whoa, slightly tripped out. But if I wasn't fasting, I knew that it was working because when I was fasting, it was working. And the idea of micro is that you don't feel the effects, but it's just working in the background. It's just enough that it's working in the background, but not enough to feel it.
Yeah.
And slowly through 2019, 2020, my capacity started to grow. 2021, 2020, I started to get into crypto as well. And started to listen, watch, read everything I could.
Perfect segue, because that was the other thing I wanted to talk to you about and to get up. But yes, keep going.
Finance and economics. And as my capacity grew, I listened and read and learnt more and more and more about it and wrote. And I was journaling through this time as well. As my capacity grew, I started to journal every day and intentions, gratitudes of everything, as well as a story about everything I'd done for every day. And as the capacity grew, I did more macro doses, so big doses of mushrooms. And I found that the after effects of that was really positive as well, because it would knock me out of my crappy mind frame and put me into such a beautiful place. And I still had like a leftover extra capacity. So I really started to not just learn, but feel and understand the benefits of magic mushrooms for cognitive capacity. And then I looked into it, had to research, had to understand what was happening, and it super connects our brain. So it connects our brain in a way that our brain isn't normally connected.
Mm-hmm.
So pathways going to everywhere that we don't normally have connection to. So instead of, say, 10 pathways at any one time, we would have like 100 pathways going at any one time. And that was what was giving me extra capacity, because I had connections to parts of my brain that I wasn't connected to before. In 2016, I did my first brain injury course. And it was a 10-week program every Friday for 2 or 3 hours, going through all the different parts of brain injury, of recovery from brain injury and how to optimize that. And through that course, one of the stages is denial. Like one of the early stages of brain injury is denial, not understanding and denying that it's actually had an effect on your brain and on your capacity.
Yeah.
And when I learned that, I was just like, oh, fuck. And I didn't understand it, because I remember in one of the first lessons, he was talking about how you had to slow down and work, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I went back to work and I had no problem. But really, I was so brain dead. I was just working on second nature, what I knew second nature from doing my work for so many years.
Your subconscious mind was taking control.
And then every time I came up to a slight problem, I freaked out. And I was lucky that I had my brother-in-law working for me that had worked for me for many years. And I'd be like, hey, Billy, like, I'm stuck here. What do you think I should put the unit? I could put it here, here, or here, and I just can't make the decision. I couldn't be decisive. I didn't have the capacity to make that decision. And I would be able to explain to him why I would or wouldn't put it in all three of those places. And he was just like, man, you just explained it to me. You would put it there. Like, you wouldn't put it there, and there because of those reasons. You should put it there. I'm like, fuck. And I followed his lead. I was giving him all the information. I had all the information there, but I didn't have the strength and capacity to make the decision for myself. I can't remember where I was at before about that, but it was such a journey of understanding brain injury course, of what brain injury was, and that I had gone through that such a strong denial period after my accident. And then I learned about neuroplasticity, and that opened my mind. I was just like, whoa, I'd already opened my mind to plant-based eating and realized that, what we were fed through media was such a crock of shit, that we need all these oils, all these different fats, and we need animal protein for recovery, and all of this was so wrong, and it was just industry fed for money, for industry's bullshit. And we'd been brainwashed. And all of the best coaches and competition competitive fighters that I knew, that I was taking advice from them. All the best personal trainers, I was taking advice from them because they were fit and strong, and they were people that I idolized, but they had no idea what they were doing either. They hadn't actually gone deep into the science of what nutrition actually meant for our health. And learning what neuroplasticity was, that next big mind opening, like, oh shit, I can actually change anything about my personality. There is nothing about any of us that is actually permanently hardwired. You know, humans used to think that our brain was hardwired, and that's how it was. We couldn't change it. But then we learned through hard work, perseverance, persistence, that we could change any part of our brain, any part of our personality, but we have to actually want it bad enough and have the drive to consistently pull ourselves up and change that about ourselves. And that just started a whole nother journey for me of wanting to change parts of my personality that I wasn't comfortable with, that I'd had from, you know, childhood trauma programming of just survival, I guess. And I started to change super fast. So January was the big year of really changing a lot. 2016 was the big year of really changing a lot, where it just started to go faster and faster as I learnt more, and as I opened my mind, I learnt more and just changed more and more.
Yeah, wicked. So do you think with the microdosing and the use of psilocybin mushrooms in your sort of journey has resulted in a lot of healing?
Hell yeah, not just healing, it's resulted in a lot of more cognitive capacity. It's given me connection to parts of my brain that I didn't have connection to before.
Yeah.
So it's given me access to more neurons. If you think of a neuron as a little battery, it's fully charged when it's closed, and we fire that neuron through a thought or through taking in some sort of input, through looking at something, listening to something, and it fires. And it takes so long to slowly recharge again before it's back to full energy to be able to fire again. And, you know, we've got trillions of them in our brain. And through brain injury, I damaged a good chunk of it. I don't know how much percentage, 20, 30% of my brain, my capacity was gone, was completely dead. So through psilocybin, through magic mushrooms, I'd all of a sudden, you know, connected all these pathways to parts of my brain that I wasn't using before. And it had given me more neurons to use, given me more capacity for thinking, processing, for taking in all the inputs of the external world. And consistently doing that just gave me that consistent access to more neurons, and those pathways strengthened. So through neuroplasticity, we know we can break pathways, which is a slow practice of persistence, perseverance, of saying, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be that person. And pulling myself up on what I was doing that I didn't want to do. Consistently, we slowly break down those pathways, those negative pathways, whatever the pathway is that we didn't want. And then through microdosing, I'm slowly building new pathways, strengthening pathways to parts of my brain that I didn't have access to before, giving myself more capacity.
Yeah, awesome. What do you say, or what would you say to people who hear the word magic mushrooms and think, oh, druggies, drugs, oh, no, bad drugs? Well, what do you say to that?
Well, I did used to think that all drugs were drugs. But then as I really stepped into understanding mushrooms and psychedelics more and more, I don't think all drugs are drugs. I think they all have different levels of...
I agree with that.
Other beneficial uses or just negative uses. And even some of the negative ones, you know, I think of, say, amphetamines as a all negative. But then we know, you know, I've got a cousin that takes dexamphetamines, and he really found that helped him stabilize his life. He's got ADHD, full-blown ADHD, and is very, very motivated guy, full-blown anxiety. And he found through dexamphetamines that it calmed his mind, it helped him center his thoughts, and he's done so much better in life with being on dexes. He's on 9 dexes a day, so he's on a huge amount, but it took that much to be able to calm his mind, enough to be able to focus his mind. So yes, there's lots of negatives to it, but every drug, there's a reason we've created these drugs, because they all have benefits of you know, shutting down different symptoms that we have. And mushrooms, I've realized, as the more study I did into them, have some of the least negatives out of any drug.
No one's ever died from an overdose of mushrooms.
The most negative thing that I can find from mushrooms, like if you're in a negative place in your mind, it can spiral those thoughts absolutely out of control. But the most negative thing I found in my own personal use is sleep deprivation. If you have them too late at night, you often won't sleep. Until you fully come off of it completely, you're not going to fall asleep. So the sleep deprivation is not good for our brain, not good for our body. But that was the most negative thing that I've been able to find anywhere from psilocybin, from magic mushrooms.
Yeah, wicked. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that, my friend.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I reckon we touched on pretty much most of the things that I wanted to go into with that. So you mentioned also a little bit about crypto. So for those of you who don't know what cryptocurrency is, it's a means of transferring wealth. If you're referring to one that everyone probably has heard of called Bitcoin, it's like I said, a means of transferring wealth which doesn't have a centralized authority taking control of it. So it's completely decentralized, and the power is with the people. So I remember talking to you a lot about it, and you got involved, and you were telling me a bit more about your story. And this is originally what we wanted to talk about when we were doing. We wanted to do Ship Vegans a little while ago.
Yep.
Just to go into all of that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your crypto journey, how it all started for you, and how it's enriched your life.
So I'll go back to the very start of that. In 2017, my close friend that worked for me at the time, Nick, got into crypto through one of his friends, and he was just watching, through the bull run at the end of 2017, he was just watching his portfolio go from 5,000 to 30,000 to 40,000 so fast. It was crazy. The bull run in 2017 was ridiculous. So FOMO for me was like, I need to jump in board. I couldn't set up an account. I was having heaps of trouble. I struggled with technology. So I asked him if I could just throw him money and he could invest it for me. And then I finally got an account set up, and I invested in a whole bunch of different coins. Didn't understand them enough. I didn't understand or believe in what actually blockchain technology means and was and is for the world, and I didn't understand all the differences in them. I just thought they were all just memes.
Yeah, right, and I think a lot of people think that too.
Totally. I thought the write-ups on them were all just bullshit write-ups, and it was all just the same shit. And I didn't understand, so I read up on what was trending. So I invested in the things that were trending, that people were thinking were going to go up in value. It was all just about value. It wasn't about the underlying technologies and benefits of what these things were bringing to us. It was just about trying to gain value. I invested, I watched it go up, and didn't take any profits, didn't understand trading, didn't understand investing at all. I watched it come all the way back down and left it there. It was only probably about $4,000, $5,000 back then. Left it there in 2020. COVID hit, and the markets crashed harder than they'd crashed in a very long time. And I just saw such an opportunity. I was just like, fuck. And I'm still struggling with cognitive fatigue at this stage, but I'd started my microdosing journey, and my fatigue, my cognition was coming back, my capacity was coming back. I was like, I need to understand investing and trading. I wish I'd done this years ago, but there's no better time than now to start.
Yep.
I had already understood neuroplasticity, and I understood that whatever we trained our brain in, we would get better at. So I rang my ex-wife's uncle. He's been trading and investing for my whole life, probably longer, and he's made some good money from it. He lives in a beautiful, amazing house on the Gold Coast in Queensland, lives an incredible life. And I was just like, I've always sort of idolized what he'd done through that and never put the time into understanding how he did it. And this was my opportunity. So I rang him and I asked him where to start, and he gave me a course name to start with. And he said, just reading, like looking for subscriptions and signing up to subscriptions of things that you're interested in, finding things that to invest in that you're interested in and that you understand, or you're willing to learn to understand properly, so that when you invest in something, you understand what you're investing in and why, what it's doing for the world, or what it's doing in general, and you believe in that cause, so that whichever way it goes, if it goes to crap and goes to zero, you'd put that money into something you believed in, so it's all right, because you were doing the right thing. And I started to learn. I signed up to whole bunch of different YouTube channels, and just started to, driving all day, working, I was just listening to YouTube all day. I wasn't watching as much, just listening and taking notes. I'd always stop, pull over, note, and I was just continuously taking notes and listening to everything, signing up and reading every morning. I still do it now. I get up and I read for like an hour of all my different subscriptions on economics, macroeconomics, finance, investing, stocks, shares, crypto, all the different things, and how they all influence each other. The Federal Reserve is probably one of the biggest things that I read about still continuously, because that has such a big effect on everything financial in the world. But then as I started to really understand what blockchain technology is and was to me, that's when my excitement started to change and started to grow. I started to understand that it was decentralized finance, decentralizing governance, decentralizing anything that could be put into a digital way. We could decentralize it, and we can track things from wherever they go, from your olive farm to the other side of the world, can be tracked in a digital way to know that it was organically grown, and who the source was. And there's just a barcode on there that gets scanned the whole way through, but it's on the blockchain as this was made here, this date, left here, this date, went to there, that date, and it keeps getting dated and tracked the whole way. So there's a supply chain side of it, but the financial side of it is what really took my interest. Right now, our economic system is a debt-based system. Basically, it's set up for the rich to get richer and everyone else to not. So basically, the rich own assets, houses, gold, silver, oil, commodities, whatever it might be. And by devaluing the currency, which every currency is always done throughout the last 5,000 years. We print more, we make more of that currency, and we devalue that currency. So me and you that have got $10,000 in the bank, but we don't own much assets, it's being devalued every time they print 10% more. It's being 10% more devalued, and that just changed my mind. Like, holy shit, the governments of the world in the last 2-3 years since COVID, America printed 40% of their entire money supply in 2 or 3 years.
Yes, they did. They did.
And now we're going into this ridiculous stage of inflation, and they're trying to slow it down by putting interest rates up. But there's so much cash in the system because they gave out so much money. So there's so many different theories here. This is just a theory that's in my head at the moment, that it's not going to slow it down, but it's going to break so many things in the meantime, because the rich still have a shit ton of money, and there's still a lot of work out there because the big business has so much money to employ people, but wages aren't going up. Wages didn't go up 40%, and inflation's happening because there's so much more money out there. Everything's going to keep going up super fast, and then we've gone into war with Ukraine and Russia at the moment, so energy costs are going through the roof, and energy costs are put into the CPI, the core inflation pricing. And as that happens, we're seeing inflation. So the Fed's trying to fight this inflation, but at the same time breaking everything else by putting interest rates up, which is hurting the people, the poor and middle class, the lower and middle class people, but the rich are fine. So there's so many different little interesting perspectives. But as I learned about decentralized finance and Bitcoin as one, that this was one of the most smartest made technologies that the world has ever seen.
Yep.
There's so many different aspects of Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin.
Yep.
That's in the code. That's how that was in the white paper, how it was written. There'll only ever be 21 million of them. So it can't be inflationary. There can't be more made. So its value is only ever going to go up. It's not being taken away by the government by just printing more. It's not being taken away by any one governing body by just printing more.
Yep.
You own a Bitcoin, that value is going to go up as everything else inflates. As more money is printed, then Bitcoin goes up because it hasn't changed. It's still only 21 million. Then Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin and the team of developers built what they call Web 3.0, which is like a decentralized internet. And Ethereum is what's called a layer 1, where you can build dApps, decentralized applications on top of, and that can be decentralized exchanges, decentralized finance, NFTs. There's so many different aspects to blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. And then there's a whole bunch of layer 1s. So I got into understanding that, and there's Cardano, ADA by Charles Hoskinson, and there's all these different layer 1s, and there's all different decentralized apps built on top of them, all by different companies. I think of them all as company. I think of cryptocurrency, the tokens we buy, as stocks or shares into a company, into a decentralized company. And there's some of them that are centralized, that are owned by a company, by a centralized company. A lot of them aren't centralized. And the deeper I got into it, the more I had to understand.
So for those of you who are listening and are thinking, what the hell is being spoken about here? I'll try and explain a little bit about what I know of what the blockchain is and how it solves a lot of sort of our problems when it comes to finances. So think of a bank which holds your money, and it holds the ledger of transactions. So say I get my net bank out, I transfer $50 to Sean, that $50 gets sent to the bank and then sent to Sean, and then it gets recorded on the ledger held within the bank. So the bank knows who I am, how much I sent, and who Sean is. So the idea with Bitcoin in particular is, instead of the bank being the one to process the transactions, the blockchain, which is basically a big file or a system that you keep adding onto, and the only way it's a ledger that is not held within the bank, but it's held on every single computer that is hooked into the system to maintain the network. So the bank records the ledger of transactions within the bank. All of the computers that are hooked into the system record the ledger of transactions within the system. But the thing that makes it so unique and decentralized is the word, is that every single computer that is hooked into the system is validating the transactions that are happening. So I can send money directly to Sean it gets sent to the blockchain, where every single computer that is hooked into the system validates that transaction and records it on the blockchain. And then let's say I sent 1 Bitcoin, a lot of money, 1 Bitcoin to Sean. It gets recorded on the blockchain, and anyone has access to that ledger. Anyone can look at it, but the only thing that they can see is what was transferred. They can't see who transferred what to who.
Wallet address, so they can see that it's from this wallet address to this wallet address, but they don't know the names. They don't know who owns those wallet addresses.
That's right.
Companies, there's a lot of blockchain tracking companies now that think they know what certain wallets are. There's whale wallets that are watched. And they can see on the blockchain, because every single Bitcoin on the blockchain or every single thing on a blockchain is recorded and there to be watched and to be able to be seen. So you can see how long people have had Bitcoin, when they've bought it, when they've sold it, what the value is when they bought it, when they've sold it, how long they've held it. And there's channels that I follow, like Whale Watchers, that watches the movement of these big wallets. How much of it's going to an exchange, how much is in cold storage. An exchange being a place where you can buy and sell cryptocurrencies.
I'll talk a little bit about the exchanges as well. So an exchange, right? So we've got our money, our $50. I want to buy Bitcoin with that. I sign up to an exchange where I transfer my fiat, which is my $50. I transfer it into the exchange, and then I use the exchange to buy the product that I want to buy. So I use $50 to buy Bitcoin, let's say, and then my wallet address within the exchange is kept within the exchange. But what makes that is somewhat centralized. But what a lot of people do from there is use the exchange to then send it to a decentralized wallet. So a wallet is basically like your wallet in your pocket. You can put it on your phone, you can put it on your laptop, you can have access to everything on your laptop or your phone. And if you forget how to access it, they're gone. So just like losing your wallet, it's gone. Until you find it. So, and that's what makes it decentralized. So in Australia, I know the law is if you want to buy Bitcoin or buy a cryptocurrency through an exchange, you have to tell the government, this is my exchange, my wallet, my fucking whatever the fuck it's called.
Well, you have to tell the exchange first.
Exchange,
think of an exchange like a broker. So if you're going to invest in stocks and shares, you need a broker to be able to buy them through. You can't just go direct to buying them. Exchange is the broker. It's the intermediary between your money and buying the stock or share or the cryptocurrency. And the exchange is centralized. So it's owned by a registered company. To get fiat money to cryptocurrency, it has to be a centralized exchange, and to be able to get it back the same way, it has to be centralized exchange as well. While it's on the exchange, though, it's not yours.
That's right. Yeah, you just have access to it.
You just have access to it, and the only way to truly own it is to take it out into what's called. You can have hot wallets, which is just like an app on your phone or on your computer, or you can have cold storage, which would be a USB, but it's not actually on the USB. All that the USB is access
is your codes.
To your codes, to your seed phrases, your seed phrase words, your 15, 21 words to access to your crypto on the blockchain, because the blockchain knows that this wallet, so that USB is just a wallet address. That's all it is. And then your words get access to that wallet address, to every bit of cryptocurrency, every bit of blockchain that is owned of that blockchain on that blockchain knows that it's yours through that wallet address. Like we were talking about before, we can't actually see who's buying or selling or trading the crypto. We can only see the wallet addresses. So that's a cold storage wallet where it's all you have is your phrase words, your wallet address, and now that can't be taken from you. So an exchange can be hacked, everything can be stolen. The exchange can go down and it's gone. Different exchanges might have different insurances. A good example is we'll go to Celsius. Celsius was a centralized, a CFI platform, so a centralized finance platform that was offering good interest. So everything you held in there, you were getting paid weekly APY, annual percentage, yearly gains on it all. And they were doing probably not the best things in the background, the way they were trading the money to make more money with it, to be able to pay people this extra amount of money was dodgy, and ended up backfiring on them. And they've gone into bankruptcy. They're trying to file for bankruptcy and get the government to bail them out, which could go either way. That's just an opinion thing for me still at the moment. I follow both ways constantly, and it's not helping my mind settle at all. I had a lot of money in there. I know lots of friends and family that I had a lot of money in there. So right now that's frozen. That's gone basically. And that's that's the problems with a centralized finance company, is that it can just be taken away, and that's the problem with holding on an exchange. It can be taken away just that simply. Whereas if you're holding it in cold storage, yes, you're not earning interest on it, but you can still earn interest on it if you understand DeFi.
Yes, yeah.
And decentralized finance.
And this is another level of underneath. So once you put your coins on a hot wallet or a cold wallet or whatever, that's all, you know, you get the decentralized applications. Decentralized exchanges is another good way, I guess, of getting your head around it. So think of the exchange that's centralized, and then you can think of the same program underneath it, and then it can all be done that way, and it's all...
It's decentralized, so there's no governing body. It's just a bunch of developers all over the world. Anyone can work on that exchange, and through voting, through DAO, like a decentralized autonomous organization, so a bunch of developers all over the world, we can vote on how that application is changed. And that's the only way we can change a blockchain as well. There has to be a vote, and it has to be a majority vote for anything to be changed. So Bitcoin, in a sense, can be changed, but it has to be a majority vote of everyone that, 50, 60, 70% of Bitcoin holders, I can't remember the exact percentages, have to vote in the same direction of, yes, we're going to allow more Bitcoin to be made.
Yeah.
But who the fuck would be crazy enough to devalue their Bitcoin? No one's ever going to be crazy enough to do that. So that's the only way to change a decentralized application. But decentralized exchanges is an exchange where you can't bring it back to fiat because it's not a registered company. It's not a fiat. It's not a company at all. It's just a decentralized application online with no company behind it, where you can trade. So I can trade Bitcoin for Ethereum. I can trade Ethereum for Terra, whatever. You can trade them all between each other. For stable coins, a thing that's called a stable coin. So there's different stable coins. There's, US dollar peg stable coin, so that it's backed by US dollars, government bonds. There's ones that are decentralized stable coins. There was one, so we're going to example, the Terra Luna ecosystem had one that was pegged to the Terra Luna token. So as the token went up in value, they printed more UST, US Terra, which was pegged to the US dollar, so it was the same value as US dollar. But then as the Terra Luna token value dropped, it would burn the UST tokens. But it kept it pegged perfectly at a dollar to dollar ratio. And then it was hacked this year, and I believe that it was hacked by the rich. That's
what happened,
and my belief, because it was a $30 billion hack.
Yeah,
it wasn't something that could be done by your everyday hackers and software developers. This was big money. $30 billion is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
It took that money to be able to flood the system and overload the system to absolutely crash UST, which crashed Luna at the same time. And they did that through, I can't remember the words, but through playing DeFi platforms against each other. And they ruined they absolutely destroyed Terra Luna. And I saw a lot of people go through a lot of suffering. I lost a lot of money to it.
Yeah.
And I know other people that lost a whole lot more, like 6 figures. And then I'm sure there's probably people that lost more than that throughout the world.
Yeah.
But that was the way that I speak about believing in something. I believed in what Terra was doing.
Oh, yeah.
They were decentralizing finance. They were bringing power back to the people financially.
And to be honest, I think if because Sean also sort of tries to help people in their own crypto journeys as well, and we're in like a group chat where we have a whole bunch of people and we just discuss things here and there. I'm not very active in it myself, but I do see it pop up. And one of the things Sean was helping a lot of us out with was how to get into Terra and the ecosystem.
And I felt really bad.
Yeah, but the thing is, it wasn't your fault,
No.
and it was unseen, unforeseen. I mean, the crypto market is volatile, but it didn't happen. I don't think it's right for people to lose trust in your judgment based on what happened to Luna or Terra, because the reason being is because it was a hack. It wasn't a pump and dump. It wasn't
just a breakdown of their software.
It wasn't a shit coin.
But it was almost a flaw in the software that I didn't understand. It was a flaw in what they had made. It was a flaw in the blockchain that they had made and they hadn't processed yet. But it was only, I can't remember the exact date. It was only 4 weeks later that flaw was going to be, that bug was going to be fixed, and it would have cost them $80 billion to do the same hack.
Yeah.
But I feel like the rich people, probably BlackRock or Vanguard, the richest institutions in the world, I feel like they took advantage of that time. They knew this was the last moment. Their developers had obviously figured out the hack, and they did it. They crashed the system completely because they saw these are the bankers of the world that rule the world. We are all ruled by bankers. The Federal Reserve is just a bunch of banks of rich people that control our money. And these people saw an opportunity, or they saw their control of our finance being taken away from them by decentralized applications like Terra. They saw us bring power of our money back to us, and they wanted to kill that. So they stopped it right in its steps, and it was horrible. Freaking horrible for so many people. So many people had put their life savings into it and just watched it all dwindle away to nothing because of some rich fucking hack.
Yeah, man. Did you lose a lot of sleep over that when that happened?
I didn't, only because I was on a whole another journey.
Right, yeah. That was sort of in the background.
Yeah, I'd fallen deeply in love, and I feel guilty in a sense for not being there for my community, which wasn't okay of me. But at the same time, I had to do me. Like, I'm on my own journey, and, you know, I'm always willing to share and teach everything I know, but you have to make your own decisions. People have to make their own decisions. And when I say before you invest in anything, you have to understand and believe in what you're investing in. The only thing I am here to do, and the only thing I try and do for people, is help people understand what they're doing, what cryptocurrencies are, what all the different aspects of blockchain technologies are.
Yep.
And it's up to you to make the decision on where you want to put your money in, if you want to put your money into it.
Yeah.
Because there's always
this is not financial advice, by the way, everyone.
This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and this is what I tell everyone. If I go into people questioning me, I'll say, I'm not a financial advisor.
When I do the intro to this, I will put that at the very start.
Because I am not a financial advisor, and this is just me sharing what I understand and what I've learned and what I know of it, and what I'm following of it. And it's up to you to make an educated,
absolutely,
idea, a guess of what you want to put your money into it, if you want to put your money into it. And then it's your risk, and if you lose money, you have to own that. And I was in a magical place of love, so I wasn't there to hold people as it crashed.
I
felt a bit bad after helping so many people to understand it and put money into it. But, I was in a bad place as well. I just watched $30,000-$40,000 just disappear.
Is it going to pick back up? You reckon, Terra?
If I was to truly tell you what I feel, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know what the future holds, but I don't think it'll ever come back to where it was. It lost too much trust.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
When so many people lose so much money, that was $30 billion wiped overnight, gone. That's a lot of money for people.
So someone hacked in there and took it all.
They played it off against each other because they're pegged to each other. So they brought enough Luna and UST at the same time. So the total ecosystem value was around $30 billion. I'm not perfect on these numbers. I'm not perfect of this example, but this is just my rough understanding. They bought enough of each and sold them both at the exact same time, fast enough to crash them both fast enough that they couldn't keep up with each other, or burning and printing each other, and it just completely destroyed them, crashed them both to zero.
Yeah, that was a little bit of my understanding, because at the time, like, I hadn't invested in any of it, of that in particular, but at the time I was watching it and I was like, oh fuck, like I was thinking about you. I was like, shit, like I wonder if Sean's gonna be okay. Like,
I was okay, but it fucked a lot of people, and people that I love and that had put their trust into me in learning what I was sharing and teaching, and it wasn't just me either. I had friends that taught me about the ecosystem, and we went into like degen, DeFi, like on real deep levels. And when I say degen, like degenerative DeFi, just going so deep on it and playing all of these yield farming opportunities and making huge percentage gains. And I did a workshop on that with some friends, like friends that are computer software engineers that understand technology like to the deepest possible level.
Yeah.
And we were teaching people the deep levels of this stuff if they wanted to go that far. And and he felt so horrible. He lost 6 figures, and they all did. All the whole group of software engineers all lost huge amounts of money to it, because this is something they believed in. They believed in the values behind it, and they put a lot of money into it and a lot of time into it and understanding it properly, and it just got ruined. So they felt horrible for the people that they taught about it, and I was taught by them, and then together we taught other people, and just watched a lot of our money just get destroyed. And then Celsius went down as well. And the Terra ecosystem collapse just crashed the whole cryptocurrency ecosystem. So, I went from, we'll just say, $500,000 roughly as an idea, down to like $50,000-$60,000. And it was just like such a shock of a difference, like between that much of a money gain to that much of a money down was just like, and I didn't understand trading. So big lessons for me was I need to pull more profit next time. My take profit strategy has to be stuck to perfectly. I didn't follow it properly. I didn't follow it strongly because I just grew so much belief in crypto and that it was going to keep going up. Maybe this was the bull run that wasn't going to crash again, and it did, and I got wrecked.
Yeah, damn it.
Because I didn't sell anything. I'm not selling anything, so you don't lose until you sell.
But you didn't necessarily lose money you put into it. You lost profit.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Because I haven't sold it. I haven't sold it at a loss.
Yeah.
I'm still up on everything because I got in so early. I got in after the crash. I got in heavily. I firstly got in 2017. After the crash of 2020, March 2020, when COVID happened, I started to get in. I started to dollar cost average. I started to read, listen, watch everything. I started to dollar cost average into a little bit of Bitcoin, a little bit of ETH, like, say 25% Bitcoin, 25% ETH. And then and my altcoins, my list grew every week. And I was buying, just a few percentage of all different altcoins every week. And my portfolio grew bigger and bigger and bigger, but all at very, very low costs compared to when the bull run started, end of 2020, 2021. When the run started, I was just like, whoa, like watching these gains happen. And I took lots of profit still, but nowhere near enough. I took, 5-10% profit of my gains in the early stages. But then as it was going up, I cancelled everything. I cancelled all my take profits, cancelled all my stop losses, and made those stupid moves that I know not to make next time. Set my strategy and stick to it strong.
Yeah, fair enough. So you've got a strategy for investing, for holding, and for profiting.
Yep. So dollar cost averaging in and dollar cost averaging out, in a sense. When it hits, double the amount that, so say I bought Bitcoin for $1,000, it hits $2,000, taking 20%.
Yep.
And then if it hits $3,000, taking another 20%. And then there's following a whole bunch of patterns, of charts. There's a point where I would sell 40% of my holdings. And then if it goes up even more again, if it goes up another, say, 20% of that value, then I'll sell another 40% and I'll sit on 20% the whole time. So there's a whole bunch of different strategies in there that I work in with each other. And then setting take profits, setting stop loss strategies as well as it starts to get to those real higher levels. Setting a stop loss of selling 20% of whatever my holdings are if it drops back below that.
Yeah.
And then not putting that money back in was the big lesson that I had to learn.
Yeah, no shit.
Just taking that as a profit and letting it go, knowing that it is probably going to crash.
Yeah.
And it'll go back up again one day as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I'm just holding on to what I've got. I put in maybe $5,000 of just a couple of different ones. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and it was Solana. But I pulled out of Solana and just converted it back to Bitcoin. So I'm just holding on to those for now and just seeing how we go.
And I would say Bitcoin and ETH is your safest bets.
Yeah.
They're the two biggest, strongest ones. Bitcoin is totally decentralized. There's no one person or group behind it. It's the most totally decentralized blockchain technology there is. It's the original, and that's the safest
OG.
bet.
And you can already use these currencies to pay for things. You can go into on the runs and use your Bitcoin and Ethereum to pay for goods and services through on the run, and as an example.
And then there's exchanges that offer credit cards. So there's CoinSpot, the Australian exchange, that have just partnered up with MasterCard.
Interesting.
A CoinSpot MasterCard credit card.
Oof.
And you can buy everything. You can live off your credit card and your bill just gets paid with your cryptocurrency every month.
Wow.
You can pick which cryptocurrency you pay for your bill with.
So that could potentially just keep paying for itself all the time.
If it's going up in value, if you invest in the right one.
Potentially, yeah, for sure.
I need to call this for a sec. I need to go to the toilet.
Yeah, do it. Well, I reckon this will be where we just finish it off. So I got to go change the waters too. So it's been really good. This is Sean Rowe, everyone.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
No worries. Well, I'm going to bring in some Chris Delaney.
Much love to you, Chris.
As I always do.
Love your work.
It's been good, my friend. So we'll leave it there.
Too, Nick. Thank you.
I'll let this play, and that'll be it. She vegans, free the voice.
Peace.
Sean Rowe, life coach.